we call abortion in this country. You know, the numbers came out recently that in New York City alone, they had over 73,000 abortions. One city. In Ohio this year, we'll kill 24,000 unborn children. 24,000. Folks, we're better than this as Americans. And we have to find a way to address the reality of the freedom to have life in this country. And when I get to Washington, that will be high on my priority list, to safeguard those children and support a constitutional amendment to protect the unborn. And finally, I have to talk a little bit about what I call, and some call, our imperial president. This gentleman now sitting in the White House has got to be stood up to. I am sick and tired of these weak-kneed Republicans who refuse. They refuse to stand up to the president who is using his executive orders to shred our Constitution. You would think that every member of Congress, you would think that Dave Joyce would understand the fundamental aspects of our republic that requires separation of powers. If we don't have separation of powers preserved in our Constitution and our republic, we don't have our liberty. Because without limiting the power of each branch of government, without constraining the power of this president, we will no longer have a government that is our servant. We will have a government that is our master. And that I cannot abide. You know, as a township trustee, I wasn't in the military. But as a township trustee, for the first time, I took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. And I take that oath seriously. You know, I had a phone call today from an organization in Virginia that wants to endorse my candidacy. And one of the things they asked me about was my faith, you know, and was I church-going Christian and so forth. And I told her something that I thought about a lot. You know, we have these politicians that raise their right hand, right, and they take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. Well, that's an oath to Almighty God. If you don't believe in an Almighty God, what does that mean? And that's a scary concept. I worry about that. If people are not serious men and women of faith, then that oath, that raising of that hand, ultimately means nothing at all. But it means something to me. And I take that oath, and my opponent, Dave Joyce, has taken that oath. But where's the action to back up the promise that's made there? Where is the response to a president who defies Congress and on his own decides to rewrite the laws? And we see this in the news every day now. Whether it's Obamacare or the immigration laws or the EPA, where are the men and women of courage we need to push back and defend our liberty? I make you this solemn pledge. If you send me to Washington, D.C., within 30 days, I will file for articles of impeachment to take this person out of the White House for his high crimes and misdemeanors. You know, it's, I'm so glad you applauded at that line, because my secretary said, well, maybe that's too radical? Yeah, probably is. It's probably too radical to expect our president to uphold his oath. And it's probably too radical to expect members of Congress to actually defend the Constitution that they've sworn to Almighty God to do. But when I get there, that's my plan. And if that's what you want, if that's the kind of America that you want, then I'm your candidate. And my opponent, on the other hand, he's not merely been silent on these issues, he's actually joining those in the Republican Party that are now attacking conservatives. And Kim mentioned this, and she's so quite right. Congressman Dave Joyce is actually a member of the Main Street Partnership that Steve LaTourette has decided. or that is now, he's now director over, I should say. And as some of you know, and if you don't, you should Google it, Steve LaTourette has bragged he's going to beat the snot out of me. Well, here I am. Bring it on. It would be bad enough if your congressman was simply just not a conservative, but he's joining those that attack conservatives. He's gone far beyond just being a silent co-opter against conservative values. Folks, our nation cannot survive, and we cannot be prosperous if we keep going this way. We need to return to the wisdom of our founding fathers. We need to recognize that liberty is the foundation of our prosperity, and that without freedom, all else is lost. You know, this is the part my wife told me not to say. Because you're all very nice people, but I don't really want to be here. And I know you don't want to be here either. Yeah, I'd rather be home, still screaming at the TV, sharing a bottle of wine, playing with the grandkids. That's what I'd rather do. But I can't. Because I have 8 grandchildren. And I'm not going to be 85 years old and have my grown-up grandchildren ask me, Grandpa, what was it like? What was it like before? I'm going to fight back. But if we're going to change things, our way things are going in Washington, we have to change them soon. Some people said, well, why don't you wait 2 years to run for Congress? Might be too late in 2 years. When I'm out on the campaign trail, sometimes I think, am I ever going to get back home? But I tell you something, if we don't change things, none of us are ever going to get back home. Because the America that we loved, the America that we grew up in, won't be there anymore. So I ask you humbly for your prayers, above all else for your prayers, because this, above all else, is a spiritual battle. But your vote, your support, your financial support, please go to mattlynch.com and send others there to get a sign, to send me an email that says I'm not alone in this battle. I can go as far as you folks are willing to send me. And with your help, we will be victorious in May and again in November, and we will bring Washington back to the values of our founding fathers. How many of you have ever heard my little radio spots on WHK? A couple of you? I always finish it the same way, so I'm going to finish it this way tonight. I'm Matt Lynch. I'm running for Congress, and that's the way I see it. Thanks so much. God bless America. Thank you. Chuck says we're going to take some questions.
We're going to take about 10 minutes for questions. So if you'd like to ask a question, if you come up to the front here, we'll give you the microphone and you can ask the question. But I had 2 questions that were posed to me prior to the meeting, and Matt, I'd like for you to address those. First was, why did you back off from the challenge from Sarah LaTourette for the 76th district? And the second question was, why did you oppose the state income tax cut?
Well, 2 very different questions. Let's first talk about why I chose this race. As some of you know, Scott will tell you, it's really not good form inside the Republican Party to challenge an incumbent. And even though I've had folks talking to me for the last year about running against Dave Joyce, it really was not... It's not something I was anxious to do. It's obviously a very difficult battle, and he's a sitting incumbent Republican. But when Scott's wife, Sarah, decided under her father's instruction, or at least his approval, I'm sure, that she would attack me as a sitting incumbent, I realized that that's no longer the case, that it's okay to challenge a sitting Republican incumbent in your party if you've got some disagreements with them. And I have a lot of disagreements with Dave Joyce as a congressman, and I am going to take those disagreements to this campaign to tell people